for the fabric products launches for the Luxaflex brand, we've taken a very similar approach to what we've done for the last few years. And what we do is we actually look at 3 key areas of influence that really allow us to shape how we launch fabrics into our Luxaflex brand and into the product by series offers that you know we have. And what we do is we look at how they really influence and shape what we put into the market. So the main area, the first main area that we look at is actually our key fabrics that we have on board. So we go to the Living and Classic series and we look for our classic ranges. We look at if they're still meeting the mark within the market, and we look at how we can actually improve them. So I'm sure you all remember that last year we actually relaunched Caspian, Portobello and the Series 500 fabric, and what we did with those fat ranges was we introduced new colours, and we also went wider width on the Caspian and Portobello. So like what we did for those ranges, we're actually going to take another 3 ranges this year and do the same sort of thing. And the reason we do that is also because people know that premium brands within a market have iconic ranges that really strengthen their presence and really give people that reassurance that these are something that are here to stay. They're ranges that aren't they're timeless, they're not going out, and it's also what represents a proper brand. It's something that we all know will be reinforced. It's just like Burberry taking their iconic pattern and recolouring it every season. It's the same sort of concept. The next key area of influence that we turn to is one that's all about opportunity. And I know you guys would have heard everyone talking about new opportunities and how it helps strengthen any brand within a marketplace. And more importantly, it allows us to stay ahead in the market, and it also allows us to show people that we are key innovators and we continue to lead the way. So for this year, what we've looked at is actually the Living series. So we know time and time again we've gotten a lot of feedback on the fact that we need more textured fabrics for the Living series, but more importantly, we've had to actually look at the price point. That was the other key objective for these launches that we're going to see today. So we're actually introducing 3 new ranges to the Living series, and where they'll be price positioned is actually at a totally new price point than what we currently have. So they're actually sitting below the Perron grid by about 20%. So this is very exciting for us, and I'm sure you'll love the fabrics, and I will go into the detail of what makes them so special. But the other thing that's really important to know is that they're all Australian made. So we finish them over in our warehouse factory in Rydalme, in our textiles facility. And the last lot of things that we've gone to introduce this year is something that I'm sure you'll be very excited to hear about, and I'm sure you already know what it might be, seeing the hoist up the back. It's printed rollerbind fabrics. So again, a very big innovative step for us as a brand and as leaders in the market. We're really out to make a mark and showing everybody out there just what it's about to be one step ahead, how to introduce something so innovative and how to really lead the mark in terms of leading innovation and taking things to a whole new direction. So let's kick off with our new range refreshers, and the first range that we're revamping is Havana. Now, I'm sure you're all very familiar with Havana because it has been in the market for some time. And what Havana is, it's what we call a flat box weave. So it's got fine yarns that are woven between the warp and the weft, and the yarns are actually of the same density, and they create a nice flatness that you can see, but just enough texture to create some interest on the surface. So Havana, as we know it, has actually always been dominated by warm neutral tone. So what we've seen from last year and still progressing through to this year and even the following year is those tones of grey. So what we've looked to do is introduce some nice grey colourways into Havana. So there'll be some lighter greys, some deeper charcoals, some more statement charcoal blacks, and there'll also be a nice crisp white. So that's something that we also didn't have in the Havana range. Our neutral tones were quite cream. It's called, obviously, light cream was the colour, but now we have a nice crisp white. So it really rounds the offer quite well. Havana is going to continue to be available in both blockout and translucent opacity as we know it, and it will stay as a 3 metre wide fabric, and it's also going to be available across all the applications that we know it to be, so the rollers, Roman and panel. The next of our exciting new ranges to be revamped is Versailles, and unlike Havana, Versailles actually adopt a lot more detail, so you can see there's quite a bit more texture happening there, and it's because, again, of the variation in the density of the yarn. But what Versailles also does quite nicely is that it adopts different colourways within the various yarns that it applies through the weave. So that's why you really get that dimensional play, and all the yarns are a different density, as I mentioned, and that's what also elevates the surface. But it is very much still within that nice traditional presence of a horizontal weave, but it is quite elegant and timeless from a very subtle texture, although it takes texture to a slightly different level than what Havana done. And like Havana, Versailles was always a more neutral, warm-based colour palette, that's what we've ranged for the Luxaflex brand. And now we'll be introducing the greys again. So for both Havana and Versailles, the colourways, the samples that will be coming into the range are actually up the back of the room. So at the end of the session, I will encourage you to go up and have a look at them and see just how much of a difference they're going to add into the range. So same, Versailles will continue to be available at a 3 metre width in both blockout and translucent in all the applications that we love. And the last of the ranges that will be revamping for the season is actually one of my personal favourites, and I know a lot of people love this range because it's a real elegant statement woven fabric. It's actually the Temple range. And I know a lot of you would know that Temple's got a really detailed metallic yarn through the weft, but it's not just detailed, it's actually quite subtle in the way that it represents a sheen, because although you've got sheen in both the warp and the weft actually dominates by the metallized yarn. So we're going to go with some beautiful grey colour tone, and it's all about really taking that opulence that we know Temple has to a whole new level. And I think the colour names will give it away. So we're going to have Lustre, Starlight and Twilight. So you can really expect all that glitz and glam being re-injected to Temple, which is a real iconic fabric for us. So Temple will continue to be available again in blockout and translucent in all the applications that we know. So very exciting to have another 3 ranges that are very well known to the Luxaflex brand revamped, and it's because there's such a success and that people are so still in tune with what they're doing for us that we've gone to that next level of revamping them. So Living Series, very exciting opportunity. This development that we've worked on for the Living Series has actually not only been something that I mentioned is going to continue to be Australian made, it's going to be very well priced position, but it's also, these designs are adopting a totally different take on woven fabrics. And the first that I'd like to introduce you to is Farrow. And Farrow actually adopts a whole heap of texture. You've got a slab yarn within the weft that's air texturized. You're getting multicoloured yarns in the warp that's giving it a whole new other dimension, and you're getting actually a vertical pattern, which is something that we don't usually focus on so heavily, but it's something that's really that next step up for textured woven fabrics. It's actually all yarn dyed as well, so the quality is by far just on mark with what we do with all of our products. So it will be available as a blockout fabric, and the colourways are actually on the board there. And what we've done is to really capitalise on those new nudes that are coming through, the neutrals and those rugged colours. So the palette is very strong, and even with a colour like this, you can see although it's quite detailed, it's not too intrusive to a consumer. So it's really nice to be able to make a statement. That's okay. It's really nice to be able to make that statement without really telling someone that, oh, I can't live with this for so long, because it's still very warm, and it actually draws its inspiration as well from a texture perspective from a lot of the natural raw finishes that we see, things like concrete and bark, and I think you can all see that sort of resemblance. And again, very different to what we currently offer in the Luxaflex brand, and a whole new take on woven textured fabrics for the Living Series. The next exciting range that we'll be introducing for the season is Taylor. Again, very different to what we have, but also very different to Farrow, which is our newest Living Series fabric. It's what we call a detuned geometric weave. So you will see a slight geometric play in the pattern there, but the actual weft yarn is quite muted, it's quite matte in its finish, and the detail and the sheen that's coming through is actually through the warp yarn. So probably you can see it a bit more better closer to the lining there. But as your eye travels across the skin, you will see the variation and the play of the pattern. And I think what really works so well for Taylor is the way that the colours represent the pattern. So although it's very different to what we have, the colours do it a lot of justice and a lot of welcoming sort of interest in terms of detail and texture for a fabric that's so intricate. So Taylor will be available in 7 colourways. It will be available in both blockade and translucent, and it will also be a 3 metre wide fabric. So both Farrow and Taylor are 3 metres in width. So again, very exciting given everything that's behind it, but also something that's going to be so standing out within the market and a real new leader to what we have in Rollerbind fabric. The last of the new Living Series fabric is just as special, although it looks significantly different. I think you can see how much more relaxed the Sheffield Fabric is. It's very different in the way that it incorporates detail, and it's actually what we consider a plain weave. So it's not the weave that's bringing that interesting, it's actually the way the fabric has been dyed, and also the yarn slubbing that you can see that varies across the skin. So what's happened with Sheffield is they've actually incorporated a cationic polyester into this weave. So this is what actually allows the yarn and the fabric to be dyed a certain way to have that point of interest. So I do encourage everyone to really come up and have a look after the session, because you'll notice the amount of variation that's on the skin a lot closer. You may not see it all sitting back there, but the amount of variation is really driven by that dyeing method of the yarn. And the slubbing is also very irregular, so this is a real inherent feature within the skin, and it's something that creates that warmth and inviting sort of feeling to what you can see there. So that's why we kind of give it that resemblance of wool, that sort of real luxurious, I'm in my comfort something, and it's something that the Living Series currently doesn't have. So we know we've got Hines and we've got Waratah, which are plain face colours. But this actually takes plain weave and plain colours to a whole new level. So this is something that I think is really going to set us apart from all the texture and detail that's out there, because it's so easy and so inviting and also so welcoming. The Sheffield, more exciting, will also be a 3 metre wide fabric. That'll be blockout and translucent opacity, and then we know that the windows are getting wider and everybody really wants a 3 metre wide fabric, and the colourways is really capturing the element of what the fabric is. And again, the 6 colourways that will be available in Sheffield are on the